Okay, guys. So, welcome to this APM Revision Marathon session. We are going to start off with this APM Revision Marathon session. And before I go on to this revision marathon, let me just discuss with you people the agenda for the session of today. While planning the session of today, I was thinking that what should I be doing during this session? Because obviously, the students who come in, they have got certain expectations. They want few things to be done. So when I was thinking about it, I realized that there is one thing that students struggle a lot with respect to APM, and that is they are unable to understand the questions requirement, or they are unable to understand that what should they be writing in the specific question requirement. So what I have actually done for today is I have planned out the session like this, that I would actually be discussing about the different type of examination questions requirement that usually arise, and I would be going through the different type of scenarios. I would help you understand that what is the examiner's expectation, what you should be doing as a student to write things like that. So that's what I would be doing in today's session. So and I would be also taking up the questions from you people, that whatever the questions that you people have, you can just go on to ask those questions, and I will be happy to answer those irrespective of from whatever topic those questions belong to. So in order to start off, what I have done is I've actually used the revision kit for the ACCA APM. Although it's a bit old version, but there is not much of a difference. There is not much of a big of a change. So what I'll be doing is that I'll be taking you through this revision kit. Through the revision kit, I'll be discussing the different questions requirements, and I would be telling you that how exactly a specific question requirement needs to be answered. What are the things that you need to do with respect to answering the questions requirement? Because in addition to the technical marks, we also need to score the professional marks. So we need to plan for the professional marks also, that how would we be scoring the professional marks. Okay, so let's just start off. What I'll do is that the I'll just open up the syllabus areas which are written in this revision kit, so that you could just have a quick idea as to what are the syllabus areas. I think that when we analyze these past examination questions, you could understand that these are the different topics that are frequently examined. In fact, some of the topics are very frequently examined, and some of the topics are examined very less number of times. Like for example, this performance hierarchy, CSFs, KPI, this is one of the areas that is a regular feature of the examination, and you would always almost see this question in almost every examination question. And you could see that the other areas like benchmarking, it has not been tested for some time. SOT, PESTEL 5 forces, BCG, risk and uncertainty. So they are generally they are the occasional topics. So as a student, what happens is that when we are planning to prepare, so we need to just make sure that we focus on core areas. Plus, in addition to this, the less tested areas, at least we should try to do one questions pertaining to them. So this is basically a less frequent area, and this one is a frequently tested area, right? This is a frequently tested area. Now, then we go about and we talk about the different type of environmental, social and governmental factors. So you would realize this thing that the stakeholders has been examined a bit, but the other things, in fact, even I would say the role of management accountant has also recently been examined a bit more by the examiner. So that's also one of the areas to focus upon. Then you talk about the budgeting and the control. So again, it's an occasional topic, but when it is examined, it's a 25-mark question that you could expect. Then the business structure and performance management examiner has recently focused a lot on this specific area, which is BPR. And these are the occasional areas that are tested. The information system, big data, MIS, management information, more frequently examined areas. Performance report, the favorite area of the examiner in the recent past. Plus the reward schemes, against the famous area of the examiner. The EVA, no matter what happens, this specific area is an area which no one should ever take a risk on. You should always be prepared for this specific area. Not-for-profit organization, again, occasionally they do test. These models, these are the very key models. You should have a very good grip over these models of not-for-profit, non-financial performance indicators, balance scorecard, building block model, performance pyramid. These are the things. Quality management. Almost every alternate attempt, we have got this quality management that's examined. And then this is what the conclusion is. So in short, if I could say, there are few areas you should not take risk on. One of them is quality management and complete quality management. The second thing is non-financial performance indicators topic, divisionalization and transfer pricing, reward scheme, performance reports, the information system, the performance measurement hierarchy, KPI, CSF. These are the 7 areas you should never take a risk on. These are the 7 areas you should never take a risk on, because if you are taking a risk on these areas, that means you are inviting, you are actually playing with your attempt. So that's something that you should not be doing. So just make sure when you're preparing, just make sure that you focus on these areas specifically. These are the areas which should be covered at any cost. Now, I'll move a bit forward and I will take you people through some more examination questions. And as I know and as I discuss that the students, they struggle the most with respect to when it comes to attempting the questions requirement, right? When it comes to attempting the questions requirement, this is an area the students, they struggle a lot. So what I would actually be doing is that I would be taking you people through the different questions requirement, would be explaining to you how a specific questions requirement needs to be answered, how exactly should be done, so that you could have an idea that how would you plan out the answer, you could have an idea that how would you write down the answer, things like that. So this is one of the questions. The name of the question is Frushi Retail. What I'll just do is that I'll just copy the requirements of the question, and we would try to have a bit of a discussion on the requirement of the question, that what these requirements are, how exactly should you be trying to attempt these requirements. That's something that we would try to do. Now let's just start off. This is one of the examination question, and with respect to this question, you could see the examiner says write a report. What does the examiner says? Write a report to the Chief Executive Officer of Frushi to respond to his instruction for work on the following areas: current performance reporting quantitative, current performance reporting narrative, the calculation of operational gearing and its implications, the quote, what gets measured gets done. I'm not going through any of the questions requirement, any of the questions. I would just be going through the questions requirement. And through the questions requirement, I would try to help you people understand that how a specific question requirement needs to be answered in the given scenario. Now, the first one of them is basically you have to write a report. Now, always remember when the examiner says that you got to write a report, how exactly would we be writing down the report? That is something that we should focus upon. That is something we should be prepared well upon. Now, the first thing that you need to do with respect to report is that you need to have the report structure that needs to be followed. Whenever you have the report, the first thing that you have to do is that you have to follow the report structure. When we talk about the structure of the report, what do we mean by the structure of the report? So structure of the report would actually mean that you would start off with this to, from, subject, date. And then you would have what? You would have the introduction paragraph. Then you would have subheading 1. Then you would have subheading 2. You would have subheading 3. And you might actually draw a conclusion if you wish to, provided how the situation is in the given scenario. Or at times the situations are like this when you don't even draw up the conclusion also. So that's what you have to do. So when it comes to writing down the report, you got to follow this structural requirement, which is to, from, subject, date, and then introduction paragraph. And after this introduction paragraph, you would have subheading 1, you would have subheading 2, you would have subheading 3. Subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3. So when you would have this subheading 1, 2, and 3, you would actually have to write down the things under that. Now, let's just start off. So basically, always when you have got a question where you have to write down the report, you got to make sure that you follow this structural requirement. Now, a lot of students, they ask what should we be writing down in the introduction paragraph. So what you should be writing down in the introduction paragraph is simply all the question requirements that are there. Just decode the requirements and write answers to it. So basically all that you have to do is that you have to write down all of the questions requirement, just decode them and write down the answers to them. That's what you would have to do with respect to it. Now, when we talk about this subheading 1, subheading 2, subheading 3, so generally, like even in this question where it says that current performance reporting narrative, etc. So this is actually going to become your subheading 1, this is going to become your subheading 2, this is going to become your subheading 3. So I repeat, this is subheading 1, this is subheading 2, this is subheading 3, this is subheading 4. This is what it is actually going to become. I repeat, this is what it is actually going to become right now. So when we talk about this, this is how things are going to be. Now let's move further. Let's discuss further. So I've actually told you people that the report would actually mean that you would have to create a structure. Now, next situation is that write a report to respond to his instructions for work on the following areas: current performance reporting, quantitative, current performance reporting, narrative. I'll just go back to the questions requirement and see what is he actually asking for. So CEO is concerned that the performance towards his mission and its subsidiary objectives are not being usefully discussed at board meetings. He believes that the fault lies in the board's performance report for annual strategic review. Therefore, he wants you to do an assessment of current performance report in the two parts in the light of his concern. First part of assessment should consider quantitative elements of the report and can include some discussion of improved indicators, and also more generally should take into account what is the best practice for reporting performance. Now see, just try to understand that what are you going to do, because this is a question which talks about the performance report. Now before I go on to talk about this performance report, I would like to discuss few things so that I can help you understand. Basically, from the perspective of the examination, there are usually 4 types of requirement. The common requirements that actually exist are what? I repeat, the common requirements that actually exist are what? Number one of them is the examiner might actually say, evaluate performance. The second requirement could be, he could say, evaluate the performance measures. The third requirement is that it could say, evaluate. यार मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ, असल में वो मना कर रहा है. मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ, मना कर रहा है बंदा. या पता नहीं है बॉस, वो असल में जो ना मैं मैसेज कर देता हूँ। इमरान भाई एक सेकंड होल्ड करिएगा यार, होल्ड करें होल्ड करें। Just a second, please. Allow me a minute. Just a second, please. Okay, sorry guys. So basically, you have to evaluate the performance or you have to evaluate the performance measures. The third thing is that you have to evaluate the performance report. Or the fourth requirement which we come across is that the questions requirement is evaluate performance measurement system. So when I talk about it, it's basically either evaluate the performance, evaluate the performance measures, evaluate the performance report, evaluate, or even it could be the performance measurement report, or it could actually be the evaluate the performance measurement system. Now let's just try to understand what exactly are we going to do when such requirements are being such requirements actually come up to us. So first of all, you got to understand the word evaluate. I repeat, first of all, you got to understand the word evaluate. When we talk about the word evaluate, what do we mean by evaluate? The word evaluate actually means discuss. I repeat, the word evaluate actually means to discuss. Basically, when we talk about the word evaluate to discuss, what exactly do we mean by this discussion? Let's try to understand this thing. When we talk about the evaluation, the concept of evaluation is that with respect to the evaluation, what generally happens is that you are going to talk about both sides of the story. You're going to talk about the pros, you're going to talk about the cons, you're going to talk about both. You'll discuss if there is an evaluation of a technique, you will discuss the advantages, you will discuss the disadvantages. This is what you would do. When we talk about the application of something, so you would talk about that how it could have a positive impact on the entity, how it could have a negative impact on the entity, different things. So generally, both sides of the story is what you do when it comes to evaluation, the word evaluation. Now, when the examiner says evaluate the performance, so generally what happens is that the examiner is expecting us to do what? He is expecting us to calculate the performance. He is expecting us to calculate. He is expecting us to measure. How to calculate, how to measure. So he's expecting us to calculate, he is expecting us to measure. How would you calculate? How would you measure? So you would calculate or you would measure using whatever the formulas, whatever the methods that are given in the question. Or at times what happens is that whatever the applicable ratios that could be there, that's what you have to do. So you would have to calculate or you would have to measure the performance, and then what you would have to do is that you would have to comment on performance, right? So what happens is that when we talk about evaluation of performance, so what do we mean by evaluating the performance? The concept of evaluation of performance is that the examiner is expecting you to calculate the performance and then to comment on that performance if that performance is good or bad. So that's what you have to do. The second requirement is it says evaluate the performance measure. We already know the word evaluation. We already know the word evaluation. Now it says evaluate the performance measures. I repeat, it says evaluate the performance measures. Now, what exactly do you mean by evaluation of performance measures? Let's try to understand this. Let's try to see through it that what do you mean by evaluation of performance measure. You would come across a situation. You would come across a situation where the examiner would have given you the measures for a company. Let's say maybe they are calculating the profitability using ROCE, or they are using the profitability using the GP margin. Now, evaluating the performance measure, what does the examiner is expecting you to do? The examiner is expecting you to actually pick up the performance measures that they have suggested, and you need to actually comment at length. You need to discuss at length about those measures. That is it appropriate measure? Is it appropriate measure? Why is it appropriate? why it is not appropriate. You get my point? So when I talk about the performance measure, so is it an appropriate measure? Number one. If it is an appropriate measure, why it is an appropriate measure? If it is not an appropriate measure, why it is not an appropriate measure? Now, at times what happens is that the examiner would also ask you for the recommendations. So like for example, if he says evaluate the performance measures and suggest suitable measures, or would say and recommend the alternate measures. So when the examiner actually says in his requirement that recommend the alternate measure. Now what does he say? If he says recommend alternate measures. What exactly do you mean by recommending the alternate measures? Recommending the alternate measures means you are actually, the examiner is expecting you to actually suggest additional measures, the extra measures that could be there. So like you would suggest an alternate measure. Maybe if you talk about the shareholders, you might actually be suggesting economic value added as a measure. But if you would be suggesting the economic value added as a measure, then you would actually be justifying it. You would actually be commenting why it should be used, why this is the measure to be used. You get my point? So basically what happens is that when we talk about the word evaluation of the performance measures, so the examiner is asking us that, look, this is the measure. What you need to do is that you need to comment on this measure, and then after commenting on this measure, you got to at times recommend alternate measures also. That's what the examiner is suggesting. Then the next one of them is evaluate the performance measurement report. Now, again, this is a very frequently examined area, and a lot of students, they make an error when they attempt the answers to this specific question, the performance measurement report. Now, what exactly is this performance measurement report evaluation? Let me just give you a bit of an idea that what a performance measurement report is. See, what happens is that when we actually prepare a report for the management, we could prepare different type of reports, let's say for 2014, for 2015, so on, so forth. We could say a lot of things. We could give details of sales. We could give details of profits. We could give details of customers. We could give details of the product, so on, so forth, so on, so forth. So basically what happens is that, let me just give you a bit of an idea that what is the examiner expecting us to do when he's asking us to evaluate the performance measurement report. So when he's asking us to evaluate the performance measurement report, he's not asking us to comment on performance. He's not asking us to evaluate performance. He's asking us to evaluate the performance measurement report. Now, what exactly is this performance measurement report evaluation? How is it different to evaluation of the performance? So in the performance measurement report evaluation, you don't comment on the performance. You simply comment on the report. Now, what do you comment on the report? So for that, I'll just take you people through some of the shortcuts as to what should be done with respect to evaluation of the performance measurement report. Now, just try to understand. Basically what happens is that from the past examiners article also, I would actually say that there is a mnemonic, which is the mnemonic of pale, that is used. Now what is this pale? Pale, the P actually means purpose, A means audience, I means information, the L means layout. Right? It's actually purpose, audience, information, layout. Now see, what happens is that generally speaking, when you come across a performance measurement report, you are being given a report which is being provided to the management. Who? The senior management, the board of directors. And what you are required to do is that you are required to comment on that performance measurement report for its appropriateness with respect to how it is being created, for its appropriateness with respect to the audience it has been directed, its appropriateness with respect to the purpose for which it is being created. That's what you would have to do, right? So this is what you would have to do with respect to this performance management report. You see, you get my point. Now let's just try to understand this. Okay, now see. So purpose, audience, information, and layout, this is what it is all about. Now see, when we talk about this purpose, audience, information, layout, so you would have to actually see generally what happens is that the organization, it has got a mission statement, right? The companies, they have got a mission statement. So when you talk about the mission statement, what generally happens with respect to the mission is that the mission of the organization actually tells you, gives you a direction. What is the whole objective of the organization? Maybe your objectives could include a lot of things. Maybe your objectives could include innovation. Your objectives could include customer satisfaction. Your objectives could include the employee care, etc., etc., etc. There are hundreds of things that could actually happen. So what we need to do is that we need to see if this is the mission of the organization. Is this report aligned with the mission? Is this report covering what is in the mission? If the mission focuses on customer, mission focuses on employees, mission focuses on innovation, and the report only covers the financial aspect, that means that the report is not aligned with its purpose. The report is not serving the purpose. The management wants to see whether the mission of the entity is being achieved or not. So that means it's not aligned with it, right? You get my point. That's what you would have to do. Now next, audience. See, usually the board of directors, they are not, they are not, they're from various backgrounds. They could be engineers, they could be marketeers, they could be sales personnel, they could be finance professionals, they could be engineers, they could be different type of people. So your audience is the top level audience, and the information that should be presented to them should be easily understandable for them, right? So is the information aligned to the audience or not? So you got to see if the information is aligned to the audience or not. That's something that you would have to see, right? Next, the third is information. See, what happens is that the information is the report, an ideal report should have both quantitative, qualitative information plus information from internal source plus information from the external source. So I repeat, what happens is that I repeat, an ideal organization, ideal report should have the information from all of this, which is it should have quantitative, qualitative, internal, external, all this type of information should actually be there. Now, so does the report have that or not? And lastly, the layout. The layout is the presentation. The layout talks about the presentation, whether this is just a report with numbers. Is there a pie chart given, bar chart given, other graphs available, etc., etc., etc. Multiple things that you would have to actually consider. You get my point? So there are multiple things that you would have to consider with respect to it. So basically, when the examiner says evaluate the performance report, what is he expecting us to do with respect to performance measurement report is that we got to look at the report and we could actually use this specific PALE as a framework for evaluating the performance report, if the performance report is making sense or is the performance report not making sense. That's what we could do when it comes to this evaluation of performance measurement report. Right? Okay, lastly, there is this evaluate the performance measurement system. The focus is on the word system. I repeat, the focus is on the word system. So when we talk about this specific performance measurement system, what do we mean by this specific thing? Let's have a bit of a discussion about evaluating the performance measurement system. Let's try to understand this. When I talk about the evaluation of performance measurement system, what do we mean by this? The concept of evaluation of the performance measurement system would mean what? Would mean that the existing system to be compared with the benchmark system. Now, what do we mean by existing system to be compared with benchmark system? Let's try to have a bit of a discussion on that. So the examiner could say that evaluate the existing performance measurement system while compared with balanced scorecard, while compared with building block model, while compared with the performance pyramid. He could actually ask multiple things. So the benchmark system would be what he would have mentioned in the question. It could be the balanced scorecard, it could be the building block model, it could be the performance pyramid, it could be different type of things, right? So what you need to do is that you need to make sure, I repeat, you got to make sure, you got to make sure that the existing system, you put up the existing system, you compare that, okay, what are the attributes? Like if the balance scorecard was a benchmark, so you know that the balance scorecard measures 4 things. What are the 4 things that balance scorecard measures? The balance scorecard measures the 4 things, which is the financial aspect, customer, learning and growth, and internal business. So basically what you would do is that you would compare the existing system, that does it have appropriate measures for measuring the financial performance? Does it have specific measures for the customers? Does it have specific measures for learning and growth? Does it have specific measures for the internal business perspective and so on and so forth? This is what it is going to be. So you would compare the existing system with that of the benchmark system. That's how things are gonna be, right? That's how things are gonna be. You get my point? So when I talk about the performance measurement system, this is what we are gonna do. I repeat, when we talk about performance measurement system, this is something that we are actually gonna do. Now coming back to the requirements that this question has, I think that is now become quite easy for you because one of them is current performance reporting, quantitative current performance reporting, narrative. So you would actually be applying that PALE framework to the quantitative measures that are being produced. That is it aligned with the purpose? Are they okay for the audience, keeping in mind what the audience are like? If there is a chief executive officer and you are actually giving him a number of the janitorial staff that is there in the company, he's gonna bang your head in the wall. He's gonna say, what are you joking with me? Right? You see, you get point. So what happens is that if the quantitative information is being given, is it meeting that framework? Qualitative or the narrative information that's being given, is that narrative information meeting the standards that should be there or not? So that's what you would be commenting. Then there is this another requirement which is about the calculation of operational gearing. What is it? It's the calculation of operational gearing and its implications. Now if I could have a quick poll from you people, that what is operational gearing? Yeah, any idea what is operational gearing? Any idea, guys? What is operational gearing? Yeah, what is operational gearing? It's a ratio of fixed cost in comparison to total cost. Okay, what else is there? Okay, see, what happens is that when we talk about the operational gearing, just try to understand this thing. The concept of operational gearing, I would just try to make sure that I'm able to complete the answer to this question in here only on the first page. So when we talk about the operational gearing actually tells you about what? The operational gearing tells you about the business risk of an entity. Now there are different ways of estimating the operational gearing, and one of the answers that's being provided by one of you, it's actually the fixed cost as a proportion of total cost. Because you see what happens is that the higher the fixed cost, I repeat, the higher the fixed cost is, the higher the risk is. Because you see, when the fixed cost is high, irrespective of what happens with the revenue, your costs are still gonna be there. So if the fixed cost is a high proportion of total cost, that's a problem. There's at times another formula which is being used, which is PBIT upon contribution. PBIT upon contribution is also used for the operational gearing. So let's say, for example, if you have got 1000 PBIT upon 200 contribution, so that means 5 times. Sorry, I've written a reverse formula. Sorry about that. Contribution divided by PBIT. So let's say if you have got a contribution of 1000, PBIT of 250, it is 4. If you have got a contribution of 1000 and the profit before interest and tax of 400, so this is actually gonna be 2.5. Now see what happens is that um, this means what? The contribution is 4 times the profit before interest and tax. So generally what happens is that from the contribution, you deduct the fixed cost and you get the profit. So here the fixed cost is high. Here the fixed cost is low. So you could actually say that generally speaking, what would happen with respect to it is that contribution upon PBIT, the lower it is, the better it is. I bet the lower it is, the better it is. Get my point. So now when I talk about the operational gearing is a measure of business risk, that what is the risk associated with this business. To what extent the business has the risk, to what extent the business carries a risk. That is what the concept of operational gearing is. Now, lastly, the last requirement of the question is that um, the quote, what gets measured gets done, 5-mark requirement. You got to evaluate. Now, very important area. Basically, you see what happens is that we are talking about performance management, right? That's what we are talking about. When we talk about the performance management, just try to understand that what is happening with respect to performance management. With respect to the performance management, what you need to understand is that the performance management is not just about measuring the performance. It's about measuring the performance plus ensuring that objectives are achieved. Objectives of the goal of the organizations are achieved. When we talk about the performance management, you got to make sure that the objectives or the goals of the organizations are being achieved, right? Now try to understand something. So now the problem is that it's very important for any aspect of performance, whether you want to focus on quality, you want to focus on customer service, you want to focus on innovation, you want to focus on cost reduction. Basically, the important thing is that you got to measure them. I repeat, the important thing is that you got to measure them. I repeat, you got to measure them. When you are actually going to measure them, then you would comment on them. So the measurement is important. If you don't measure, then they won't come into limelight. If you think that the cost reduction is what you have to focus upon, then measure it. Make it part and parcel of the performance evaluation of your employees if you want to measure this cost reduction. So important thing is that to have this cost reduction being measured, it should become part and parcel of the employee performance evaluation. If you make it part and parcel of employee performance evaluation, employees would focus on cost reduction. You don't make it, they won't focus. You don't make it part and parcel of performance evaluation, they won't focus. You get my point? So important is that when you measure something, it gets highlighted, and when it gets highlighted, it gets done. I repeat, when you measure something, it gets highlighted, and when it gets highlighted, it gets done. So basically, this was one of the examination questions, and I've actually explained to you the whole of the situation, that how would you write down the answer to the question. I hope that this was beneficial for you people, and I hope that you're enjoying the sessions. Just to have a heads up, how is the session going for you people? Okay, lovely. So glad to see that you all are here in here, because I was actually, when I was planning for this session, I was just thinking, what am I gonna do in this session? So Alhamdulillah, that's what I thought, that we would go about this way. So good enough. Stay connected. That actually gives more encouragement to us as tutors, also to have more and more students alongside us. Anyways, let's move a bit forward and let's take things forward. I will now move on to the next aspects of the question. You see, what happens is that um, there is this next question. Maybe I might not need to discuss this question a lot again, but I would, Michael Toscent, inshallah, you would be able to improve by the end of this session. Okay, see now. I don't want you to read through the question. I just want you people to read through the requirement of the question and just create an idea that what is he asking, what is the examiner's requirement. I'll just copy the requirement in here. Right? Okay, so I'll just copy the requirement in here. I'll just give you 2-3 minutes. Can you just review it, and can you just think of something that what are you gonna do with respect to this? Can you just plan out a bit of an answer for this? Okay, let's start off. So see, what happens with respect to this question is that it says write a report to the chief executive officer to respond to his instruction for work on the following areas. So what you need to do is that you got to write a report to the chief executive officer for the work to respond to the instruction for work on the following areas, right? Okay, before I proceed, uh, some of the students are a bit concerned about how we should be going about it. So you see, Luqman Rafiq, APM Revision, just a minute. Escribir Academy. Okay, I just want to share something with you people. Is there a playlist for the APM sort by latest video added? Okay, here you go. Basically, a lot of you people would be looking for something for a quick revision of the entire course. So there is this video. The Escribir Academy APM Revision Lectures Part 1. The Part 2 never took place. So Part 1, it's a complete, I mean, like it's a significant portion of the course that's being covered through this
Do
video.
you
Let
want
me
to
just
make a
get
great impression on your customers? Build your brand in every message with a professional email from Go.
wait a bit. Okay, let me just show you that this specific video, I think it's visible to you people. It has got a lot of areas that are being covered up, right? So just for the sake of you people, I'm just gonna share it again. Copy. I don't know how to share it across to you people. Okay. Hmm. Okay, I'll just share with you people basically in a while. I don't know right now how to do it, but anyhow, we'll do it later on. Anyways, just coming back to it because a lot of you people would want to have a revision of the course, so you could use this video for the revision. Now, it says following areas performance reporting at FIAC focused on the question of manipulation in the board report, whether the report addresses the company's objectives and the report's presentation. Now, see what happens is that this is specific part of the question. This is specific part of the question, which is part 2 of the question. This part is simply evaluate performance report. This part is simply evaluation of the performance report, right? This second part is simply evaluation of performance report. Whereas the part 1 actually is a situation, is a scenario where where there seems to be manipulation, means the results have not been correctly presented. So there seems to be manipulation, and the board of directors want you to actually comment, want you to identify, and want you to actually justify if you think that there is a manipulation. So there's probably going to be a manipulation in the scenario, and they would be asking you to comment, justify, and explain that where exactly is the manipulation, to what extent the manipulation has taken place. Then there is this second one, the consultant's report on the external business environment. So now for this, obviously we just cannot do it like this. Um, Can you just go through? Can you just go through the exhibit number 3, please, here? Can you just go through the exhibit number 3 here, please? Okay, now see, the CEO has recognized that the company operates in increasingly volatile external business environment. Therefore, he has employed a consultant to perform a pest analysis, and he has given you the relevant extracts of the report. So the extracts from the pest analysis report of the consultant are being given. He stated that he does not want to re-perform the consultant's analysis. Instead, he wants you to focus on the implications of the pest factors identified on FIAG's business, and then on providing a justified recommendation of suitable performance indicator to measure the impact of each of these factors. Now see, what happens is that, just try to understand. This is very common in the APM. The question's requirement are not clear till the time you read the question itself. So here you see, this is where the examiner has highlighted what the CEO wants. This whole part is the requirement of the question. This whole part is the requirement of the question. He wants you to focus on the implications of the pest factors, the political, economic, socio, technological factors identified in the FIAG's business, identified on the FIAG's business, and then providing a justified recommendation of suitable performance measures to indicate the impact of each of these of those factors. Now see, let me just guide you people a bit. Basically, in this scenario, what's happening? Okay, in this scenario, what is actually happening is that the examiner is asking two requirements. He says implications of pest factors on FIAG's business. So you would take up each of the pest factor identified. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say. And what you would do is that for each of the pest factor that is identified, what you would simply do is that you would actually talk about the impact on business. That's one requirement that you have. What is the second requirement? Always remember, whenever the examiner says and, the word and is used. Whenever the word and is used, or whenever a comma is used in the requirement, that means there is another requirement that has started. So what happens is that there is an impact on business that you would talk about, plus, and providing a justified recommendation of suitable performance indicators to measure the impact of each of these factors. Now, how to measure and why use this measure. How to measure and why use this measure. That's what you would have to do, right? Now, let's try to understand this. See, this is the report. I'll just talk about one of the examples. Obviously, we would be having the examination question sessions in the upcoming weeks. We would be doing the examination questions. But for today, what my focus is to focus on examiner's requirement, because that's a more struggling area for students. The government of Beeline has recently provided tax allowances to citizens who use a bicycle to commute to work. If I'll just go back to these questions, it says FIAG is a large national bicycle in well-developed country of Beeline. It is a family-owned business until 3 years ago, when it raised new funds from VCs to develop new models of bicycles. Of the 8 models in its current range, 2 have been significantly redesigned and 1 new model has been launched. This new model has been developed over 5 years and is most radical development to date. It is lightweight, has electrical battery, which can assist less physically fit riders up the hills. Now coming back to it, how would it impact? This would have a significant impact. So there is going to be a significant impact on the demand of the bicycles. Why? Because the government is giving incentives to people using bicycles. Automatically your business model is now very much suited toward the incentives the governments are giving. So you would be getting a lot of benefit out of it, right? You get my point. So you got to be positive with respect to it, because you will be getting a lot of demands, and has the demand been capitalized or not, you would have to introduce performance measure. Your suitable ideal performance measure could be increase in sales, growth in sales, the uh, number of customers that have grown, etc., etc. These could be the measures. Why? Because the government is giving incentives. When government is giving incentives, automatically demand is going to go up, and when demand is going to go up, the sales have to go up. And if you are not able to capitalize it, your sales won't go up, right? So you would have to suggest that. So see, the requirement of the question was here that what is going to be the impact on the business and suggest a suitable performance measures. So both of them are actually covered up through this specific thing. Yes, Donna Foster, the question has embedded requirement. That's how it is with respect to the question. Anyways, so we are done with this specific question also, which was about question number 2, and that was about the FIAC company. Now, I'll take a short break for the prayers. The time right now is 7:28 p.m. So I'll take a break till a very short prayers break. We'll start off in 10 minutes time from now, and we'll take things forward. Plus, uh, uh, once I go through some of the questions areas, I'll be having the session where I will be asking each one of you about the problem areas that you have, and I would be answering those questions to you. So stay tuned, everyone. Okay, guys, so we move forward now, and we move on to the next questions requirement. Again, when there is going to be repetitive requirements, I won't be focusing on them. When there are going to be different requirements, I would surely be focusing on them. So the next question is Iron Chicken Company. I've already done this type of question earlier in my regular class, but again, just in case for a lot of you people, this question is in here. And let's have a bit of a discussion about this question, that what this question is all about. So the question named Iron Chicken Company. We talk about this Iron Chicken Company. I've just pasted the requirements of the question in here so that we know that what to do with respect to that. The name of the question is Iron Chicken. Let's go through the question's requirement. Let's just start discussing that what this question is all about and how in the examination would we be asking this question. The question says, write a report to the Chief Executive Officer of Iron Chicken Company to respond to her instructions for work on the following areas. Use economic value added as the key performance metric at Iron Chicken, the current KPIs, the 3 improvement projects, and the impact of new proposed information system on the improvement projects. Now, before I go on to discuss the questions requirement, what I would want you to do is that to come with me and discuss with me that what is the background to this company, so that we could just do a bit of a discussion when the questions is like that. So what does it say with respect to Iron Chicken? It says that Iron Chicken is a multinational business which manufactures commercial building control systems. Building control systems include heating and air conditioning systems, lighting controls, power and water monitoring and security systems. Example, keypad access, alarms, and CCTV. Iron Chicken's manufacturing takes place at a number of factory sites, where some products have a long product life and are simple and mass produced, while other products are complex and have a short product life due to changing technologies. Okay, so they have got some products who are like that. Now the mission statement is to create value for shareholders through control products which improve productivity, save energy, and increase comfort and safety. A new chief executive has been appointed to address a decline. There's a decline in the IC's share price in the last 3 years. This CEO has identified that the business has grown through acquisition. What has happened is that the business has grown through acquisition, and as a result, she stated, senior management have focused on making corporate deals and not making control systems. CEO has declared that the business must focus on optimizing its value generation rather than just getting larger through acquisition. She has developed an improvement program for IC. You are a performance management expert within AC, and CEO has tasked you with aiding her on the following 4 aspects of her program. So what is the 4 aspects that the CEO has done? One of them is about the exhibit, where he talks about the economic value added. So he says CEO wants your views. This is the question requirement. Wants your views on the use of EVA as the key performance metric at IC. You have been supplied with the current EVA calculation, but there is some doubt about whether junior management accountant who has done this work was sufficiently trained in the method. CEO requires you to evaluate its accuracy. And you remember I told you the word and, the assumptions which form part of the calculation, and advise on your results, providing calculations as needed. So there are actually 3 requirements inbuilt into this specific part of the question, and those 3 requirements are what? Number 1, what you would actually be doing is that these 3 requirements are going to be like this. See, one of them is going to be, it says evaluate the accuracy. What you would have to do in this specific examination question is that you would have to actually review calculations, rectify the calculations, you would have to review the calculations, you would have to rectify the calculations, um, correct EVA to be provided, that's one thing, and advise her on your results providing which form part of the calculation and the assumptions which form part of the calculation. Then what happens is that you would have to actually talk about the assumptions used. The assumptions used in the question scenario, the assumptions that are used in the EVA in general. So all of that has to be done. And advise her on your results, providing the calculations as needed. Comment on results. Now, what happens is that the examiner was saying that the CEO was concerned that if the economic value added should be used as a key performance matrix at Iron Chicken. So see, what happens is that your mission focused on shareholders, right? So if your mission focused on shareholders, so what should happen is that um, the economic value added is basically giving you a shareholder perspective, right? It is actually giving you a shareholder perspective. And it is actually giving you a shareholder perspective. So what are we actually able to do? See, shareholders perspective is being given. So EVA is talking about the value creation. So it is appropriate to be used as the key performance matrix at the Iron Chicken company. The economic value added it can be used as a key performance matrix at Iron Chicken company. You get my point? Now, let's move on to the next requirement where it says that write a report um, for the current key performance indicators. Now, what is there in the question with respect to current KPIs? It says CEO believes that poor performance of the company can be addressed by ensuring mission statement flows down into the performance management of the business. To that end, following critical success factors, these critical success factors and the associated KPI, these KPIs have been identified. CEO wants you to briefly explain a weakness of the current KPI associated with each CSF and then provide a justified alternative KPI. A very, very simple requirement. What is the chief executive officer asking you to do? See, they are all embedded requirements. They're all embedded into the scenario. They're all embedded into the question. They've just given you a bit of a hint. Then what happens is that they've actually embedded the questions requirement. See, now, so what is it that we need to do? We need to see this. The CEO wants you to briefly explain our weakness, our weakness, our weakness. It does not say weaknesses, it says our weakness, a single weakness in the current KPI associated with each CSF and then provide a justified, alternative KPI. See, what happens is that the word is recommending that it has to be only one, and one. That's it. It cannot be like you would say that you would give 20 KPIs. No, one KPI only. Yes, the recording would be available whosoever is asking. So see, what we would do is that you would actually use KPI number 1, KPI number 2, KPI number 3. So I repeat, you would be using KPI number 1, you would be using KPI number 2, you would be using KPI number 3. These 3 KPIs need to be used, right? And for each of the KPIs, you would say what is the weakness, and then you would give an alternate KPI and you would say, why are you giving this alternate KPI? Why do you think that it's a better KPI? Why do you think that it should be used instead of the other KPI? Third part of the question is improvement projects. In order to improve performance, the CEO plans to implement initiatives associated with lean manufacturing. Just for the sake of your understanding, if I talk about the lean manufacturing, what is this lean manufacturing? The concept of lean manufacturing is that the lean manufacturing is when you cut out waste. You cut out waste, that's lean manufacturing. Specifically, there are 3 projects which have been suggested and CEO needs your advice on these. JIT, Kaizen, cost of quality in achieving zero defects. CEO has stated she needs you to explain. Now you see what happens is that see again, a lot of the students, they're like, I did so well, again I failed. You failed because you didn't understand what was the examiner asking. You didn't actually give him the answer what he was asking. It says CEO has stated that she needs you to explain what the 3 improvement projects are. Then there is a comma. Always remember, if there is a comma or if there is a word and, that means the second requirement has actually started. There's a comma or there is a word and, that means another requirement has started. Comma, how they will help to meet the CSFs at IC. Also, how they will impact on the existing 3 KPIs. So now, that means what is the examiner asking you to do? The just in time that you have, the Kaizen that you have, quality cost that you would have. How is it going to be your answer? You would explain each one of them. You'll explain the technique because the chief executive doesn't know what a technique is. How they will help meet CSF. See, your CSFs were greater staff productivity, your CSFs were reduction of wastage, your CSF were greater innovation. So how this technique would actually help you cover up that explanation now, and then how they will impact on the existing 3 KPI. I mean, it's not necessary that you will give a new KPI. It's not necessary. You maybe say that, okay, no impact on this KPI, no impact on that KPI, and impact on X KPI, impact on Y KPI. Your answer could be no impact, your answer could be impact, your answer could be minor impact, could be anything. Impact on KPI, need to explain, elaborate, right? You got to explain, you got to elaborate. That's what you would have to do. So this is what you would do. Each of the techniques, just in time, that what this technique is, Kaizen costing, what this technique is, the quality costing principle, what are the different heads under which you classify the quality cost, and so on and so forth. So this is what you would do with respect to this question. And lastly, the impact of the proposed new information system on the 3 improvement projects. Let me just guide you people a bit about how this information system scenario is going to be done. When we talk about the new information system, what is it that you would do? With respect to the information system, there are things that I would want you people to understand, and that is basically the information system is a complete process of identifying, recording, processing, and presenting the information. What is the information system? It's the complete process of identifying, recording, processing, presenting the information. That's what the information system is all about. Now, let's just start discussing about it. So when I talk about this information system, there could be different types of information system, but generally there is something that you need to understand, that usually within the organization there are different levels within the organization. You've got a strategic level, you've got tactical level, you've got operational level. So you've got different levels within an organization, the strategic, the tactical, the operational. Now what you need to do is that you need to understand this thing, that basically this strategic level management needs highly summarized info. The tactical level management, what do they need? They need more detail, and they need very detailed information. So you see what happens is that the different levels within an organization, they need different levels of information. They need different levels of information. You get my point? They need different levels of information. So what we need to do is that we need to understand that what is actually going to happen, right? We need to understand that what is actually going to happen. Now see, so the information system is what information to capture, what sources of information to be used. So when you have got, let's say you move to JIT, the just in time is when you focus upon 0 levels of inventory, when you focus upon the elimination of defects. That's what happens with respect to JIT. So what you would be capturing is, you would be capturing the level of inventory, you would be capturing the obsolescence of the inventory, you would be capturing that how many defects in the inventory production are being identified. The different information would be captured. You talk about the quality cost, you'd be identifying how many defects are there, you'll be identifying what proportion of the cost is incurred with respect to the quality. So you would be discussing, you'd be identifying multiple things. You get my point? So this is what the questions requirement is. He would be asking you about this specific scenario, right? Is that okay to all? Anyone having any questions till now, please? Yeah, anyone having any questions till now? Any queries that you people have, please? Okay, lovely. Let's move a bit forward and let's take things forward. Then there are these other questions also. I will not be doing those questions which have got a repetitive requirement, because I want you people to be able to have more different type of requirements to be answered. Okay, so we have got this next question, the name of which is Resolos Engineering. And there are few aspects to this question which I would like to discuss. So we'll take you people through that. Okay, it says write a report to the board of Resolos to respond to the CEO's instruction for work on the following areas: evaluation of performance reporting system. Again, that means you have to talk about the performance report. It does not say performance measurement system, it talks about performance reporting system. So it's again the performance measurement report, which is the application of the PALE framework. Assessment of the criticisms of the customer survey results. So in this specific scenario, there is a customer survey result that has been provided, and you would have to actually perform an assessment of the customer survey results. The criticism has been done, So you have to perform an assessment that to what extent is the criticism valid criticism. We'll do this requirement. Assessment of customer survey results. Criticisms of the customer survey results. The method of divisional benchmarking proposed and the benchmarking the three divisions. I'll go about discussing this, but first of all, I want to do this part B with you people. So I want you people to actually think that this is visible, right? Okay. See, what is the CEO asking? Now, first of all, read this exhibit 3. It says, at the most recent round of meetings with stock market analysts, the board has been criticized about a customer survey whose results were announced at these meetings. The criticism centered on the method of calculation, sampling, and disclosures in the press release. So you did a press release and you were being criticized on 3 aspects. That the calculations that you have done is incorrect. The second thing is that the sampling of the results is incorrect. The third thing is the disclosures and press release. What does it say then? The press release and some further internal details about the method and the results of the customer survey are given in Appendix 2. The board of Reselos is concerned about the impact of this is on their reputation in the market and needs to understand the criticism is justified. The report should include an assessment of the analyst's criticism of the customer survey results in Appendix 2. So basically, they made a press release, and the press release has been criticized with respect to calculations, with respect to the way the sample has been drawn, with respect to disclosures, etc., etc. So what is it that you have to do? You have to actually comment. You would have to actually explain if the criticism is justified or not. So for you people to understand, I'm just making sure that you are able to see this whole. I hope that you people are able to see, and I think you people have an option to zoom in also the screen. Now, Theresa Richardson, pale is purpose, audience, information, and layout. Okay guys, so giving you 5 minutes, you got to look at this and you got to give your assessment of the customer survey results. That's what you have to do. So you've got 5 minutes to go through it, please. Okay, sorry again. It says Reselos has performed an extensive survey of its customer base and is proud to announce an average customer rating of 7 out of 10. This bears positive comparison with a leading competitor of Reselos, who performed a survey last year scoring an average rating of 6. See, you're comparing last year. With a leading competitor. Who is the leading competitor? Now, the survey asked for customer a rating on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 was exceptional, 5 was good, and 0 was unacceptable. Okay, end of press release. Now, extract from Reselos document on calculation of customer. The survey was carried out by the staff at our office who sampled customer from all 3 divisions. So they sampled the customer from all 3 divisions: B land, T land, B land, V land. Now, Beeline customer rating 10, account size is 1.5 million. 9 3.3, 9 2.1, 6 6.4, 6 152, 6 11.2, 6 10.5, 6 74, 521. Company has total of 180 customers. You're talking about a 9 customers out of 180. That is what, 5%? That is 5%, right? The customer number is an identification number for administrative purposes. Okay, that's okay. Each division has its own marketing and customer support function, although product development is a head office function. Now see, what happens is that you look at this. Seven 38, 2030, 923. Now this is the total revenue out of each of the divisions. If you talk about the Beeline, so what is actually going to happen? It is actually going to be 35 million is the account size out of 738. For T-land, 152 divided by 7.48%. For V-land, it's 74 plus 21 is 95 divided by 933. 10.1%. For the total, it's gonna be what? Let's talk about all this. 35 plus 152 plus 95 is 282 divided by 3701. Gives you 7.62%. Right? Gives you 7.62%. Now just try to understand few things so that you can have an idea that what's going on. See, you talk about performing an extensive survey of its customer base. The problem is that only 5% customers covered. Revenue is 7.62% of total revenue. Only one customer from T-land. B-land has most representation, although it has got lowest sales, right? What else is there? The next situation is that the ratings are not weighed. So size of sample too small. The size of sample that's covered up is too small. It should not have been done like that, right? What else are the pointers that you are talking about? I mean, like, Janelle, you have some inputs. Your input is that the customer chosen was from 1 to 9 randomly, although there are 180 customers, most of the customers taken from Beeline. Thank you. Survey was done much with customers. Lena, yes. Okay, why? Where are the numbers coming in the denominator coming from? Okay, I picked up the numbers from here, the appendix 1. I picked up the numbers from appendix 1. So the questions requirement was that you had to talk about what's going on, and we have actually covered up in here that the survey is I mean, the criticism is appropriate. Survey covers up a very small number of people. Okay, let's move on and discuss. Then it says the method of divisional benchmarking proposed and benchmarking the 3 divisions. So here what is actually happening is that Rezelos has 3 divisions based in its 3 countries of operations, B-land, T-land and V-land. In order to drive the business forward, the integration of the division CEOs decided that they should be benchmarked against each other. So this is possibly called internal benchmarking. What is it called? It is called internal benchmarking. He is aware that this is not the only method of benchmarking. So initially, wants you in your report to provide an understanding of the different types of benchmarking and an evaluation of the usefulness of the proposed type of benchmarking for the divisions. For the final part of your report, he has supplied data in a tree to allow you to complete the benchmarking exercise and comment on the matrix used and the results. So as given this, there are certain question marks that need to be filled up. This, these are the question mark that needs to be filled up, right? Okay. So basically, what is it that we need to do with respect to it? Part C, we need to explain the different types of benchmarking. Internal benchmarking, the appropriateness of it, the problems associated with it, different types of benchmarking, internal benchmarking, appropriateness, and then problems associated with it. And then what do you need to do? You need to talk about another aspect. What is that aspect? Just try to understand that. You would have to complete benchmarking by calculating the question marks and then commenting on performance. That's what you would have to do, right? I bet that's what you would have to do. Is that okay for you people? Okay, good enough. Now, basically, what I would want to do is that I've actually covered up some specific areas pertaining to the different requirements to the questions. And I hope that you people would have understood this whole. Now, what I would want you to do is that to actually keep asking whatever questions that you have, and I'll keep answering them. I would actually allow you people to unmute yourself also. So I will allow you people to unmute yourself also. Okay, I could just call out the names of you people. You could just keep on asking whatever questions that you have, or you could just keep on going whatever suggestions that you have, just to give you one idea. Basically, we are, I mean, like the whole agenda for the session of today was to give you an idea about how to attempt the questions requirement. There are some students who are in my regular course. I've recently introduced one of the assistants who is actually going to be assisting with you for all the assignments that you submit, for all the answers that you submit for review. Secondly, what happens is that we are offering a QBR course, and we are also offering a fast track course. Both of these courses are recorded. In addition to this, I would also be doing live sessions. These live sessions would be done by, the whole process of doing these live sessions is that they would be covering the questions. You could be part and parcel of it, and you could benefit out of those live sessions. So this is something that I wanted to let you know. Now I'm happy to welcome questions from you people, in case if there are any, or even any comments if there are any. So I don't know, the first name is AZR, then Donna Foster, Hazlissa, Isaac, Janelle, Lena, Michael To Saint, Rajiv, Samson, Teresa, Miraz. Anyone having any questions, you're most welcome to ask, please. Yes, the live sessions will be recorded. Hi, how? Yes, I can. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 25-mark question, never ask for conclusion. Never ask for report. No, no. Lovely. Who else has got a query, please? Well, the question-based revision has got questions pertaining to different areas. So what I would suggest is that if you are doing a question-based revision, just try to make sure that you listen to the videos of one or two questions first. Then for the third question, just try to write down your own answer, compare it with the video that is there, From the fourth one, you could just keep on writing down the answer and you could just submit to Kiara. She's in the WhatsApp groups. She's going to be assisting you. Okay, any other questions that anyone has? Anyone would like to ask any questions? Okay, lovely, good enough. I think that there are not much of the questions to be asked. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining in. Stay tuned. Be active in the WhatsApp groups. We're gonna take things forward, inshallah, and we'll have an amazing session till the examination date. Thank you all.